Good morning. I'll call the meeting to order. First item to discuss today and not discuss is the agenda for today's meeting. Lloyd moves approval of the agenda for today's meeting. All those in favor? Carried. We've all been in receipt of the meeting minutes for July 9th, actually, and July 30th, 2 meetings in the past month. I'll open the floor to discussion or questions about the minutes from the past 2 meetings.
Are you moving both at the same time?
We'll move the minutes for the July 9th meeting first, if you want to. So Dan moves approval of the July 9th, 2024 MPC meeting. All those in favor? Carried. And then, okay, Michelle moves approval of the special meeting held on July 30th. All those in favor? Carried. So first item for consideration today is development application 24-134. And Aaron Bauer, is that you? Can you please take one of the chairs up front, please, sir? So you'll see a button on the microphone base there to push when requested to speak. So again, this is 24-134. Aaron, would you like to take this, please?
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman. The applicant is Aaron Bauer and the owner is Aaron Bauer. The site is located at 1084 5th Avenue, Dunmore. The site is zoned Hamlet Residential in our current land use bylaw. The applicant is requesting approval from the MPC to construct a 1,500 square foot, 139 meter square shop. This results in a size relaxation request of 300 square feet, about 27.8 square meters for the proposed shop. The applicant is proposing a minor 1.5 foot, 0.47 variance to the front setback and relaxation of the 30% maximum size coverage to allow 43.8% site coverage. The applicant is proposing the oversized garage for general workshop purposes such as welding, mechanical, woodworking, and personal use. These uses will be primarily undertaken during the winter when the applicant is not farming. In accordance with section 16.61 of the land use bylaw, the development authority shall review each development permit application based on its merit and determine its compliance with the bylaw. When a development permit application includes variance requests or discretionary uses, the development authority shall assess the application as outlined based on the following criteria in accordance with section 640 sub 6 of the MGA. Which states A, unduly interfere with the amenities of the neighborhood or materially interfere with the effect, use of enjoyment or value of neighboring parcels of land. B, the development must conform with the use prescribed for that land or building in the land use bylaw. So under land use bylaw 22/09, under the HR district, it states that a single accessory building shall not exceed 1,200 square feet in area. The applicant is requesting a variance of 300 square feet for the size of the shop. The proposal is equal to the maximum of all accessory buildings allowed in the HR district, which is 1,500 square feet under the land use bylaw. The applicant has stated in a letter of intent that was submitted that there is no plan to erect any additional accessory buildings in the future. Approving additional accessory buildings in the future, if requested, would require Municipal Planning Commission decision. I've also noticed from doing a site visit that there's an unenclosed 10 by 12 foot gazebo located over top of a patio at the rear of the site. The building area of this gazebo would increase the total building area for all accessory buildings to 1,620 square feet, 150 square meters. The gazebo is situated on hard surfacing and will not increase the proposed site coverage. The applicant has indicated that the gazebo will be removed to lower the overall total building area if required by the MPC. Administration supports the removal of the gazebo to ensure the proposed variance does not exceed 300 square feet, 27.8 square meters. The applicant is also proposing a minor 0.47 meter, about 1.5 feet, variance to the front setback of the garage from 5th Avenue. The reason for this minor variance is to maintain as much separation as possible from the septic field on the site. The variance will not impact visibility along Fifth Avenue and will not impact the streetscape, since the proposed garage will appear to be aligned with the front of the existing house on the site to any passerbys. This proposed variance is within the development officer's 10% or 1 meter discretion as stated in section 2.26 of Land Use Bylaw 22/09. The applicant is also requesting a variance to the maximum site coverage allowed in the HR district. The HR district allows a maximum site coverage of 30% under section 7.12. Section 11.9.7 of the Land Use Bylaw allows a variance to the maximum site coverage if a stormwater management plan stamped by a qualified professional engineer is submitted with the application. A stormwater management plan prepared and stamped by Faro Engineering has been submitted with the application, which supports the proposed site coverage of approximately 43.8%. The proposed height of the garage is 20 feet, 6 meters, which meets the requirements of the Land Use Bylaw. And letters of support have been provided by adjacent property owners who could be impacted by the proposed shop variances. These properties are located directly south, 506 11th Street East, 503 10th Street, and to the north, 1073 Fifth Avenue from the subject site. There were no circulations. Our recommended motion is to approve development permit 24/137. Standard conditions up to 9. 9 would include just a reminder that storage of materials and equipment to be confined to the detached garage. And condition number 10, removal of the 10 by 12 gazebo within 90 days of issuance of the development permit. Condition 11, any additional hard surfacing will require approval from Cypress County. 12, a size relaxation of 300 square feet, 27.8 square meters for the garage is approved. And 13, a relaxation for the front setback of 1.5 feet, 0.47 meters is approved. 14, the site coverage is approved at 43.8%. And condition number 15, installation of a 13.5 meter squared retention area as per the stormwater management plan submitted by Faro Engineering dated February 8th, 2024. The developer will be required to provide written confirmation from the engineer that the retention area was installed accordingly. Alternative motions, MPC can choose to provide non-support for the development permit since it does not 100% comply with section 7.12 of the Land Use Bylaw. We do have some photos, switch glasses here. So here we are looking east, and the proposed garage location is labeled. And here we are looking south. I'm standing on the other side of Fifth Avenue, looking south, and the proposed garage location is labeled. Here I am looking north. The garage location is labeled. West. Over on the left side of the picture, you can see that gazebo that I was mentioning. Then we're looking southwest, and again, the garage location is labeled. And east, the garage location is labeled. And south. And Mr. Chairman, that concludes my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Aaron. Mr. Bauer, would you like to speak to your application at this time?
Sure. I think the application is fairly straightforward in the sense that according to the bylaws, you are permitted up to 1,500 square feet of detached buildings. So basically the logic was the cost of the structure, whether I go 1,200 square feet or 1,500 square feet, is pretty minor. And the extra 300 square feet of shop space is more important to me than having another accessory outbuilding. So I guess in essence it kind of fits, as per the presentation from Aaron. I mean, it fits within the, our bylaws with a relaxation. So that's essentially the logic behind the shop. I'm a big workshop guy. That extra space would be nice for storage. So rather than have like a storage shed or something that I would add later, I would just include that in the shop, and then all my storage for like lawn and garden equipment and all that kind of stuff would just be within the shop itself. So I think that's fairly straightforward. Again, the relaxation on the setback, just to give me some distance from the septic field, makes that a little easier, and that's within the bylaws as well. So, yeah, and I mean, I engaged Faro Engineering to, do plans, stormwater management and all that kind of stuff, so, I think that's well documented, so. I will comment, it is nice within Cypress County that we do have fairly large, criteria for workshops and workshop height and stuff like that, so, and that was really actually part of my motivation for moving to Dunmore here from Calgary, so. It was kind of the plan all along when I bought the house. I did want to comment on the gazebo. I was unaware that the gazebo would be included in the structure because it has no walls. It can't be used for storage. Really, it's just somewhere to get in, out of the rain, out of the mosquitoes if we want to be outside. So I guess as per the bylaws, it seems that's included as part of the accessory structures. I was unaware of that. I would take it down if the MPC requires it. I would like to keep it because it's already erected. Even if I take it down, that hard surface still remains, so then I have a concrete pad with nothing on it. If there is latitude in terms of your decision-making around the gazebo, I would like to keep it. It's, as you can see from the pictures, it's kind of tucked away, next to the house and stuff. No one can even see it. Like there's trees behind, the house blocks it from the other side, and it's not seen by any of the adjacent residents. So, and also too, I did canvass the, as noted in the application, I did canvass the homeowners that would be affected in the lines of sight by the garage. They were all very supportive. So no issues there, and they don't have a desire for the gazebo to be taken down either. They're fine if it stayed. So I think that's everything, unless there's any questions from the MPC.
Okay, thank you for a well-prepared document and presentation. It's nice to see people talking to their neighbors. That's a plus for us in our decision-making process, so thank you for that. I'll open the floor to discussion right now. Dan?
Is there any way that we could change that gazebo, that he can't re-erect one and just leave the one that's there until that one's, they don't last forever, those ones.
clause on the gazebo?
Yeah.
Through the chair, any future development permits for structures would require approval from Cypress County. So if the gazebo happens to fall down at some point in the future, putting up a new one would require a permit. Thank you.
So we could,
You moving it? Are you done discussing that, first of all?
yeah, no, that's,
Okay.
yeah, it is good to see you talking to all your neighbors, but they all want an oversized garage too, so they're all gonna say yes to what you want. Aaron has some.
Aaron, go ahead.
Mr. Chairman, are you proposing to remove condition 10 regarding removing the gazebo?
I have not proposed anything as of yet.
Sorry.
What is your intention on your motion? Removing 10? Okay, let's clarify that before we move on. So condition 10.
Just to verify, we're not approving something in the future, it's just this one we're allowing to stay with this application.
So Lloyd moves approval of development application 24-134 with the removal of item 10 from the
Mr. Chair?
conditions.
Sorry, if I may, before the motion passes, we'll also need an amended condition then. So condition number 10 for the removal of the gazebo is being removed. However, we still require a condition to allow the additional coverage for buildings, for accessory structures. So that would be a 120 square foot variance to allow the gazebo to remain.
So, okay, so we'll have to amend the application for the setback and the site relaxation? Site coverage relaxation?
Mr. Chairman, the size relaxation would go up to, I believe, 420 square feet from 300. And I can't do the metric conversion in my head.
Is that what your intention is? Okay, so perhaps we should have the exact numbers included.
The only problem with that puts us over 1,500,
Which, say?
puts us over. Like, we've been pretty adamant that we stay at that 1,500, so that's gonna put us over. That'll put us up to 1,620 then, right?
I mean, if I could interject, I mean, if it wasn't there, I would be fine with not putting one up. It's just, it's already in a capital investment, like, I mean, that gazebo's worth a few $1,000s, so, you know, the cement pad's built, so there's another couple grand, so, like, that's really the motivation, so
Oh, we understand what you're saying, we're just trying to do it that it doesn't kick us in the butt in the future.
Right, in the future.
Because everything we do today,
yeah, understood. But I guess too, like, all these applications are basically site-specific, are they not? Like, does it really
it
set
sets
a
precedent.
precedence that, like, if you
It does.
approve it in one case, that then anybody else that asks for it just automatically would get it?
Well, the next time your neighbor comes in, he says, well, you know, Aaron got this, so I want
Right,
that,
right.
plus maybe a little extra. And so then all of a sudden, we have a little bit of creeping.
Yeah.
We have a little bit of coverage creep.
Understood. You know, it's,
Realize it was gonna be over.
yeah, that puts the full site coverage over.
I guess the other question I have is it possible to have that like a gazebo would be considered a different structure than like enclosed versus unenclosed? Because I can't use that structure for anything. Like, it's not suitable for storage, it's just,
So the site coverage
Really?
is for, mostly for rain events and runoff, as far as I understand it. The retention pond design that you have, we'd have to make sure that that design is
Includes that.
okay for that extra area, right?
basically the work that Faro Engineering did is with that structure.
Includes that
included. It would never
all roofed
contemplate
areas.
in removing it.
Okay.
And I guess further to that, even if the gazebo was removed, the hard surfacing underneath it still remains. So, I mean, it would still shed water just the same. So I don't think there's really an effect there.
Michelle, go ahead.
Just curious if you could leave number 10 in there and just take out the 90 days. So it says that it has to be removed, but I mean, technically it would be just there until it falls down, and then he couldn't put up a new one without a new permit. I don't know if that'll work. It's just an idea.
And I would be, sorry to interject, I mean, I would be fine with a stipulation that the structure cannot be replaced. I mean, that probably has maybe a 10-year lifespan or whatever it has, but I mean, if it did fail, I have no intention of.
I don't think we can put a clause in for non-replacement, can we? Again, back to your,
Mr. Chairman, I
Point
think
about
we would
the
have to, we can't deny someone the ability to apply for a permit.
right, exactly, exactly.
Well, that's how it would have to be worded. You'd have to reapply for that.
I mean, there are hundreds of these out in the area that are up without concrete underneath it, and there's no permits required, so and given how the site sits, I'm not concerned with it.
I'm just concerned with present.
I understand that, but I mean, like, we have to take into consideration each application on their own merit, right? So, well, precedence is contemplated, I don't think it's necessarily sets a rule for us that we have to follow. Correct?
Mr. Chairman, that's correct. Each application should be reviewed on its own merit.
Okay, so back to the motion. What do you want to do, Mr. Want?
Just take it out and add in the 16, or the 420, change it to 420.
Ken, I'd like to see it stay.
The gazebo.
Yeah.
So you want to take out 10 and amend the site coverage to whatever percent
Relaxation.
you calculate it to?
Right.
Okay.
Well, the site coverage would be the same.
Yeah, because that was already worked in.
That was already worked. Okay, so it would just be a removal of 10.
But 12 would have to change to
Yeah.
420 instead of 300.
12?
Yeah,
Yeah.
because our relaxation now is on 420,
Right.
not on 3.
Not just applied to the garage.
Yeah.
Okay. So does that make sense? We amend 12 to 420 and remove 10? Is that your motion? Does everybody understand the motion?
Yeah. That'll work.
Okay. So Lloyd moves approval of 24/134 with conditions as amended. All those in favor? Carried. So your development permit has been approved subject to meeting the conditions which were previously discussed. The county will mail you a copy of your development permits. Since this is a discretionary use, there's now a 3-week appeal period that the public may appeal the issuance of this permit. The permit will be advertised in the Cypress Courier newspaper for a duration of 3 consecutive weeks. If no appeal is filed within that time, it will become valid. If you have any further questions, you can contact the development officer after today's meeting.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. Just one last question. So at the end of that 3-week period, the permit will be issued and then I can proceed with the required building
Correct. It'll be,
permits and
yeah,
stuff
it
and-
has to
and
be
such.
advertised in case there's appeal.
Okay, no, that's great. I'm just, with fall coming up, I want to try and get the bids and contractors and stuff all
Yeah.
lined up. So
Yeah, there's nothing stopping you from
time.
that, but it's, yeah, you
but
can't start
can't
construction until you get a
start for
permit.
about 3 weeks. Okay, understood. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bauer. Next item for consideration is development application 24-135 in Mabon. Please take one of the chairs. Excuse me. So again, this is 24-135. Aaron?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The applicant is Ian Mabon and the owner is Larry and Rita Scott. The applicant is requesting approval from the MPC for the placement of a 1,200 square foot manufactured home with a proposed setback distance of 5.79, 19 feet from the front property line. The applicant is also requesting a rear setback at 2.7 meters, 9 feet. This results in a setback relaxation request of 1.8 meters, 6 feet for the front property setback, and a rear setback relaxation of 4.8 meters, 16 feet. It should be noted that the subject lot is irregularly shaped and meeting the required setbacks in Land Use Bylaw 22/09 would be a challenge for most developments, if not all. The lot also meets the definition of a corner lot in the Land Use Bylaw since it's flanked by 3 roadways. There's an existing 830 square foot, 77.2 square meter detached garage on the property that is encroaching into Illingworth Avenue and does not meet current setback requirements for an accessory building in the HR district, Hamlet Residential. The building is in poor condition and will likely be demolished. The application and site plan that's been submitted by the developer has the front door situated on the north side of the manufactured home. The land use bylaw defines the front property line as being the side in which the main entrance is located. In consideration of this, the front property line faces north to McGregor Avenue in accordance with the land use bylaw. In this scenario, the development setback requires a setback relaxation to the rear property line and front property line. Section 16.61 of the land use bylaw allows MPC to grant variances if certain criteria are met. The development shouldn't unduly interfere with the amenities of the neighborhood or materially interfere with the, or affect the use, enjoyment, or value of neighboring parcels of land. And the proposed development conforms with the use prescribed for that land or building in the land use bylaw. Land use bylaw 22/09. In the land use bylaw under the Hamlet Residential District, a residence is considered a permitted use provided the proposal complies with the minimum setback requirements of the district. Under section 6.62 of the minimum rear yard setback for this district is 7.6 meters, 25 feet. The minimum front yard is also 7.6 meters, 25 feet in this district. In addition, it states that the maximum site coverage, including landscaping, is not to exceed 30% of the total lot area. If the detached garage is demolished, the total site coverage will be approximately 7.3%. If the existing detached garage is not demolished, the total site coverage, including the mobile home, would be approximately 30.2%. Manufactured homes meet the definition of a move-in building in the land use bylaw. Section 12.13.3 states the move-in building must be finished and sided in a manner that is visually compatible with the character of the surrounding neighborhood to the satisfaction of the Development Authority. The existing garage on the site encroaches into Illingworth Avenue and is therefore a non-conforming building according to section 3.32 of the land use bylaw. The front setback of the garage is 0 feet and the rear setback is encroaching into a public roadway. These setbacks do not conform to section 7.12 of the land use bylaw. Non-conforming buildings may continue to be used but cannot be enlarged, added to, rebuilt, or structurally altered. The minimum area of a service lot for accommodating a manufactured dwelling shall be a minimum of 465 square meters, 5,000 square feet. The proposed lot area exceeds that minimum. The lot width shall be no less than 15 meters measured from the required front yard. The subject site meets the area and width requirements for the HR district and the land use bylaw. In section 22, terms and words, corner lot means a lot having frontage on 2 or more streets and situated at an intersection. The front shall be considered the side in which the main entrance of the principal building is. The subject site is bounded by Illingworth Avenue, McGregor Avenue, and First Street. Lot line front means the property line adjacent to a public roadway other than a lane, and in the case of more than one property line adjacent to the public roadway, the front property line shall be the direction the front door faces. Services are available in the roadways adjacent to this lot. This lot can be serviced with existing water and sewer utilities according to our PW department. The application was circulated to Alberta Transportation and Economic Corridors, and they do not have any concerns with this proposed development, and they do not need a permit from ATEC. However, they expect us to meet our various plans and whatnot, which we do. Public utilities, or public works utilities indicated that they have no concerns or conflicts, and roads, they just mentioned that the garage is encroaching onto county property. The recommended motion is approval. The conditions up to number 9 are standard, and number 10 will need a picture of the mobile home and a CSA number submitted to us when available. Number 11, the skirting of the mobile home, including finishing, must be completed within 30 days of the date of issuance of development permit or within 30 days of the mobile home being placed on the property. Number 12, the appearance of the move-in manufactured home must be visually compatible with the surrounding neighborhood. Number 13, any additional hard surfacing will require approval from Cypress County. Number 14, construction of the future deck will require a separate development permit from Cypress County. Number 15, the setback relaxation of 4.8 meters, 16 feet from the rear property line for the proposed move-on manufactured home. And number 16, setback relaxation of 1.8 meters, 6 feet from the front property line for the proposed move-on manufactured home. And we've also provided an alternate motion for the MPC, which is non-support due to not meeting the setbacks as required under the land use bylaw. And I did take some photos, and looking northeast in this photo, there was McGregor Avenue on the left and the proposed manufactured home on the right. And we're looking east, there's Illingworth Avenue. Then northeast, on the left is the back part of the existing garage, and there's McGregor Avenue. And this is what the existing garage looks like on the site. And we're looking north, and that's what the front of the existing garage looks like, and the proposed manufactured home location is off to the right. Then we're looking north, and the proposed manufactured home location is marked, and we're looking east again, and the location's marked. Then we're looking west, you can see First Street and also Illingworth Avenue. And Mr. Chairman, that concludes my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Aaron. Mr. Maben, would you like to speak to your application at this time?
Just want to mention that this all hinges on your decision whether I buy this property or not. So if it's approved, then I go ahead and buy it, I get a trailer, and I move it on there. That's basically it.
Okay. Thank you. I'll open the floor to discussion. You move it? Any discussion before I accept the motion? Dan, go ahead.
Not much else you can do with this one other than put a trailer on it.
Not like they're lining up for development applications in Southfield, so. No. Okay, so. All right, so that's it for discussion. So Amanda moves approval of development application 24-135 with conditions as presented. All those in favor? Carried. Your development permit has been approved subject to meeting the conditions which were presented. The county will now mail you a copy of your development permit. There's a 3-week appeal period that the public may appeal the issuance of this permit. The permit will be advertised in the Cypress Courier newspaper for a duration of 3 consecutive weeks. If no appeal is filed within time, the permit will become valid. Excuse me. If you have any further questions, you can speak to the development officer after today's meeting. Thank you. Mr. Monroe. Okay, so this is development or subdivision application 24 CY07. Les, would you like to take a chair as well? Okay, so we have Brian Monroe and Les Roth. You guys are familiar with the process, obviously. So again, this is subdivision application 24 CY07. Becky, do you want to take this one, please?
I do, thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is a Ward 1 agricultural subdivision. The property is owned by L&D Farms Limited, and the applicant is Monroe Surveys. It's located along Township Road 160, approximately 8.7 kilometers southwest of Schuler, on the northeast 3315-2 west of the 4th. The proposal is to subdivide a 6.6 hectare parcel containing an existing residence and yard to create a separate title. This application is intended to subdivide a 6.6 hectare or 16.1 acre agricultural parcel from an unsubdivided quarter section for the purposes of creating a farmstead separation for the existing residence and yard site. The remainder of the agricultural title contains dryland pasture and cropland and is 63.9 hectares or 157.99 acres in size. There are no oil or gas wells in proximity to the proposed subdivision. The proposed subdivision area contains an existing residence, numerous accessory buildings, bins, septic field, and a couple of dugouts. The current water source is a well, which is situated within the proposed parcel area, northeast of the residence. The existing storage container does not currently meet the required minimum setback distance of 6.1 meters from the land use, or as indicated in the Land Use Bylaw 2022-09. Therefore, the applicant is requesting a relaxation request of 3.7 meters for this structure. The proposed subdivision gains direct and immediate access from 2 existing access approaches, both from Township Road 160. However, the west approach has bad sightlines and is very steep. Due to these circumstances, the applicant is proposing a slightly larger size subdivision to incorporate the east access approach. It appears that the remainder of the agricultural title has an existing access approach from Range Road 23. The proposed subdivision will result in the first title to be taken out of the quarter section. A residence could still be developed on the remainder of the agricultural title, and the proposed subdivision is located outside of the Tri-Area Intermunicipal Development Plan boundary. The South Saskatchewan Regional Plan states that municipalities are to identify their agricultural land and to limit fragmentation and conversion to non-agricultural uses. Under the implementation section of the plan, Section 5, efficient use of land, it states that the land use framework promotes approaches to reduce the amount of land that is taken up by permanent or long-term development by utilizing the minimum amount of land necessary. Section 663 of the Municipal Government Act states that a subdivision authority may not require the owner of a parcel of land that is subject of a proposed subdivision to provide reserve if one lot is to be created from a quarter section of land. Part 2.9, road access of the subdivision regulation states that every proposed subdivision must provide direct access to a road or lawful means of access satisfactory to the subdivision authority to each lot that is created. Section 4.1.21, land use policies of the municipal development plan states that the county may support the subdivision of an existing farmstead or single vacant parcel if the following conditions are met. The agricultural parcel remains the balance of the quarter section. The subdivision will not impact or hinder the agricultural use on the balance of the quarter section. The subdivision parcel size for an existing farmstead is based on the area incorporating the farm dwelling and the accessory buildings and structures, unless there are physical or topographic features which define a more practical, larger parcel. The subdivision of the existing farmstead or single vacant parcel retain the same agricultural land use district as the remnant. Both the existing farmstead or single vacant parcel and the remnant agricultural parcel have direct or shared easement access to the existing municipal road network or provincial highway. And utility easements may be required between the proposed parcel and the remainder of the agricultural title. So we did circulate the application. Cypress County Finances replied that there are no local improvements associated with the property. Planning and Development replied that the proposed subdivision is intended to subdivide the existing residence and yard site from the balance of the quarter section. In accordance with the subdivision and development regulation, the proposed subdivision is required to demonstrate legal and physical access to a public road. The proposed subdivision area accommodates an existing access approach and private drive from the east due to poor sightlines along Township Road 160. Cypress County Public Works, as part of the review, may assess the existing approach for any concerns or required improvements. The subdivision as proposed complies with Section 4.1.26 of the Municipal Development Plan and is consistent with other similar approvals which have been granted in the past. Cypress County Public Works replied that they had no comments. 40 Mile Gas Corp replied that they have spoken with L&D Farms and they confirm that no secondary gas lines run from the primary meter outside of the subdivision. Under rural utilities, no secondary natural gas activity may run outside of the subdivision area. With this confirmation, 40 Mile Gas Co-op Limited is satisfied and therefore finds no conflict with the subdivision application. Equus replied that they have no concerns as this land is out of their service area. Fortis Alberta replied that they are the distribution wire service provider for the area and that no easement is required. TELUS replied that they have no concerns with the proposed activities. Canlan Energy replied they have no concerns. Alberta Transportation replied that the requirements of Section 18 are met, therefore no variance is required. While no variance is required, the department expects the municipality will mitigate the impacts from this proposal to the highway system pursuant to Policy 7 of the Provincial and Land Use Policies and Section 648 of the Municipal Government Act. And the requirements of Section 19 are met, therefore no variance is required. So I did take some pictures just to try to capture the road approach that is in question, just to kind of maybe justify the size of the subdivision. So this is looking east on Township Road 160. So you can see the two access approaches in the distance and the yard site on the right. And it's just a little closer view. So that approach is right in that dip. So sight lines to it are difficult, plus it is quite steep going into the yard. And so this is down in the yard. So you're looking at that west entrance on straight ahead there and the east entrance off to the right. I think that was all I had. So my recommendation, Mr. Chairman, is approval, subject to the following conditions. A setback relaxation of 3.7 meters or 12.1 feet is granted from the proposed side property line for the existing storage container. If the storage container is ever to be moved or replaced, it will need to conform to the current setbacks of the land use bylaw unless otherwise varied by the Cypress County Development Authority. Number two, and it's our standard condition, is that developers required to supply copies of any utility right-of-way plans, easements, or agreements which are to be registered as a requirement for any affected utilities to Cypress County prior to the subdivision's registration with Alberta Land Titles. And that is my report, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much, Becky. Mr. Monroe or Mr. Roth, would you like to speak to the applications at this time?
No, we're fine. The report covered everything, so we're ready for any questions.
Open the floor to questions. Michelle?
Not so much a question, just a statement. I used to drive school bus there, and Prairie Rose wouldn't let me pick up the kids on that west road. We had to do it from the east because the sight lines are so bad, and I'll move it.
Okay. Well, there we
Thank you,
have it.
Michelle. You're right, it's terrible.
Before we accept the motion, one quick question. So the dugout area and stuff is essential, or dam is essential to the subdivision?
I'd say yes.
Do they,
Yeah, like the boundaries that are outlined on there for the most part follow existing fence lines.
oh, I see, okay.
And then the dugout's down in a little spot, and then it comes back up into the pasture to the west.
Okay. So that land's not farmable, that's going out in the,
No.
in your opinion, Les? Okay, all right. Yeah, I know, it's, yeah. Any other discussion before I accept the motion? Okay. So Michelle moves approval of subdivision application 24CY07 with conditions as presented. All those in favor? Carried. Your subdivision has been approved, subject to meeting the conditions which were previously discussed. The county will now mail you a copy of your subdivision approval. You're advised to begin working towards completing the necessary conditions and making the arrangements to have the subdivided area already surveyed if you have not already done so. You have 1 year from the subdivision's approval date to have met of all of the approval conditions and to have the survey plan submitted to Alberta Land Titles for the registration of the separate title. If you have any further questions, you can talk to the planner after today's meeting. Thank you, gentlemen. We'll take a 5-minute recess. Call the meeting back to order.
I was just teasing you.
Next on the agenda for today is 24/142 to 24/147 Aurora Power Peace Butte Solar Project. Do we have the representatives for Peace Butte here via Zoom?
Yes.
Okay, can you please identify yourself who's joining us and just say your name and who you are and what your relationship to this project is?
Yeah, so it's Victor Beta from Aura Power Renewables and also Anthony Palaschuk coming to you from our home offices today.
Thank you.
We're-
Samantha Brown, was she to join us as well? Sabre Energy Consulting?
No, Samantha's not going to join us today. Anthony and I are the company representatives and we're the project managers and leads for this project.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so this is development permit, like I said earlier, 24/142. Aaron, do you want to take that away, please?
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman. The owner of the property is 205-8628 Alberta Limited, Judy Yankee, and the applicant is Aura Power Renewables, care of Sabre Energy Consulting. Aura Power Renewables Limited is requesting approval from the MPC to construct and operate a commercial solar facility. The project includes the installation of ground-mounted solar panels located at Southeast 3-10-6 west of the 4th, Southwest 2-10-6 west of the 4th, the east half at 34-9-6 west of the 4th, and the north half at 36 or 35-9-6 west of the 4th. The proposed area of the solar facility is approximately 820 acres, 331 hectares. The project will also include a battery storage system, a BESS. The Peace Butte Solar Farm and BESS received AUC approval and was issued a power plant approval and a substation permit and license on March 19th, 2024 from AUC. The proposed site is located approximately 16 kilometers southeast of Seven Persons, west of Black and White Trail, and the land is designated A2 Agriculture District in our land use bylaw. Project construction is anticipated to begin in Q3 2025 and be completed in Q4 2026. The lifespan of the project is expected to be 25 years, but may operate for 30 to 40 years with equipment replacing and repowering. Aura Power Renewables project is a 230 megawatt solar generation project. The project will be connected to existing Alberta interconnected electric system through the existing 240 kilovolt transmission line that runs through the project area. The interconnection is being managed by AltaLink Management. The installation of solar panels will occur on lands that are not irrigated. There's information provided at the lands that the solar panels are proposed to be located on are Class 3 under the Canada Land Inventory. All 6 quarter sections that comprise the subject lands are owned by 205-8628 Alberta Limited. Access to the project area will be from 7 new approaches, each leading off of Township Road 100 and 2 new approaches off of Range Road 32. Internal access roads will also be constructed for accesses within the project site. Approach permits and road use agreement will be conditions of approval. In addition to the development permit application, the applicant has supplied additional information, including a transport statement, a decommissioning plan, a revegetation plan, solar glare hazard analysis report, environmental evaluation, noise impact assessment, and an emergency response plan. In the Land Use Bylaw 2209, under the Agricultural District 2, it states that solar energy commercial is considered a Class 2 discretionary use, which requires Municipal Planning Commission review and consideration. Solar facilities are to meet the setback requirements listed in Section 5.2.2. Setbacks from the center line of a municipal roadway should be 40 meters, and side and rear setbacks should be at least 6.1 meters, 20 feet, from property lines in the A2 district. The setbacks from roadways would include developed and undeveloped roadways. In the letter of intent, the applicant has requested a variance for the rear setback between northeast 3496 west of the 4th and southeast 3496 west of the 4th. No variance should be needed since both quarter sections are in the same title, so it's one lot. Several variances to the setback requirements from the center line of municipal roadways and side yard setbacks between parcels of the A2 district are proposed by the applicant. For 24/142, there's a 13-meter, 42.6 meter variance from the center line of the undeveloped portion of Range Road 62. 24/143, there's a 15.2 meter variance from the center line of Range Road 62. 24/144, a 15.4 meter, 50.5 foot variance from center line of the undeveloped portion of Range Road 62. 24/145, a 9.8 meter, 32.2 foot variance from the center line of undeveloped portion of Range Road 61. 24/146, 14.8 meter variance from center line of developed Township Road 100. And 24/147, 13 meter, 42.6 meter foot variance from the center line of Township Road 100. And a 1 meter, 3.3 feet from the center line of the developed portion of Township Road 62. The rationale for the proposed variances to the 40 meter, 131 foot setback of the panels from the center lines of Range Road 62, Range Road 63, and Township Road 100 has been submitted by the applicant. The applicant has stated that the setbacks from the municipal roadway center cannot be easily changed at this point due to several significant environmental constraints, Water Act approval criteria changes, and the project's AUC approval. A significant amendment would need to be made to the design of the project to meet the required setbacks for municipal roadways, and this would ultimately set the project back substantially in regard to construction start and completion dates, energy delivery, and provide significant risks to the overall financial viability of the project due to AOC approvals, AESO grid queue status, and the grid deposit with the AESO. Most of the variances involve the undeveloped road allowance of Range Road 61 and 62. Development, the applicant has expressed willingness to work with the county to mitigate any potential issues regarding snow drifting that may be caused by the proposed variances. Since the approving authority for power generation facilities such as the solar energy commercial use lies with the provincial government, the Alberta Utilities Commission, it's likely that the AUC decision is paramount over the municipal regulations contained within our land use bylaw. Section 619 sub 1 of the MGA states a license, permit, approval, or other authorization by the NRCB, ERCB, AER, AEUB, or AUC prevails in accordance with this section over any statutory plan, land use bylaw, subdivision decision, or development decision by the subdivision authority, development authority, subdivision and development appeal board, or land and property rights tribunal, or any other authorization under this part. Section 619 sub 2 goes on to say when an application is received by a municipality for a statutory plan amendment, land use bylaw amendment, subdivision approval, development permit, or other authorization under this part, and the application is consistent with the license, permit, approval, or other authorization granted by the NRCB, ERCB, AER, AEUB, or AUC. The municipality must approve the application to the extent that it complies with the said license, permit, approval, or other authorization granted under subsection 1. So based on section 619 sub 1 and 2 of the MGA, it would seem the Development Authority's role is to ratify the AUC's decision. Section 12.21 solar energy commercial use states the following. 12.121 applicants may submit development permit applications prior to receiving approval. The AUC approval was completed when the application was submitted. Applications were submitted for the solar project. 12.21.2 development permit will be required for all commercial solar energy production facilities that are intended to generate electricity, which is to be sold and transmitted into the electrical distribution system for commercial sale, and the development permit has been submitted. 12.21.3, the applicant shall be responsible to, they've received AUC approval, so 12.21.3 is met. 12.21.4 basically states that the applicant is responsible for obtaining any approvals under the Alberta Safety Codes Act, and that's a condition of approval. 12.21.5, all equipment and infrastructure associated with the commercial solar must meet setbacks specified in the land use district in which the commercial solar energy facility is located. 12.21.6, when a commercial solar energy facility is decommissioned, the landowner will be required to return the solar energy facility location to the same land capacity and quality as it was prior to the installation of any solar energy equipment. As part of the development permit process, the Development Authority will ask the applicant to submit a detailed decommissioning plan to support the development permit application. That information was submitted with the application. And also 12.21.7 requires the applicant to enter into road use agreements with our Public Works Department, and that is a condition of approval. The decommissioning plan, as I mentioned, is included with the development permit submission. The plan states the applicant has a contractual obligation with the landowners to remove all project infrastructure from the lands and an obligation to obtain a reclamation certificate in accordance with the Conservation and Reclamation Directive or Renewable Energy Options from 2018. Reclamation security will be put in place and drawn upon to pay for the costs of decommissioning of the facility in the future. A road use agreement and approach permits will be conditions of approval for this development permit as per 12.21.7. The requirement for any inspections or permits related to the Safety Codes Act are also a condition of approval. Referrals, comments. It was noted that the setbacks of the solar panels do not meet the setback requirements of the roads from the land use bylaw. So they're asking for significant variances. Emergency Services Coordinator, Fire Department. The emergency response plan has been circulated to the Emergency Services Coordinator. Public Works Department, no conflicts, no comments. Roads need to look at the setbacks. Industry Coordinator had some comments, and they've been submitted to the applicant. Engineering, they had some concerns or comments about basically road use agreement is required and maintenance and TAS plan are required. So our recommended motion is approval of all the permits, 24/142, 24/147 inclusive. The conditions are standard up to number 10. A reclamation certificate is required to be submitted to the development officer upon decommissioning of the project. The developer submitting a revised emergency response plan if required, that's 11. 12, the developer is required to submit an engineer's design stormwater management plan to accommodate a 1 in 100 year flood event for the entire development area. The stormwater management plan is to be submitted and approved by Cypress County. Number 13, the developer is required to enter into a road use agreement with Cypress County and be in compliance with the terms of the agreement to protect Cypress County road infrastructure. The road use agreement is to be executed with Cypress County prior to any oversized load being hauled to the site or any works to enter or upgrade the county road right-of-way. As a requirement of the road use agreement, the developer will be required to provide an appropriate performance bond to ensure that the developer meets the obligations under the agreement. 14, the developer is required to submit a road approach application to ensure the existing approach meets Cypress County design guidelines and construction standards, or if a new approach is required. And 15, we're recommending approval of the setback relaxations for the various applications. Alternate motions, we had none. And up on the screen, we have a map showing the area where the various solar panels are proposed to be located. We don't have any site photos for this application. And Mr. Chairman, that concludes my presentation.
Excellent, thank you. Anthony or Victor, do one of you want to speak to your application at this time?
Sure, yeah, maybe just a few comments. Obviously you can see we've done quite a bit of pre-work prior to submitting our application to Cypress County. And so, everything seems quite reasonable to us. We're happy to proceed the way as presented. A few things that, I guess just at the highest level, things that have really put some constraints on us are some new wetland study requirements from the province for new projects. This project is grandfathered in, being that we've already studied the land. Some of the new requirements may or may not be applicable if we were to start from scratch. However, if we had to go through a wetland restudy as required, if we make movements to the panels, it's going to be quite a lengthy study period, which, as mentioned, it risks our grid deposit, and it also risks our AUC approval. So, there's a number of things that are woven together here, and I guess what we wanted to come to you today with was the request for these reasonable relaxations, to try to keep the project moving. We've got some great interest here with moving ahead from all of our investors, and we're close to moving ahead, but we just need some certainty from the county as well. So, that's obviously why we've applied, and hoping that we can make these relaxations work today.
Anthony, do you have anything?
I would just support what Victor said. I also would like to state that we've worked with the county quite a bit up to this point previously, and so we're happy to continue doing so, and we're quite flexible. So just let us know if you have any questions.
Okay, I'll open the floor to questions. I have a couple. Your production of 230 megawatts, is that per year? What is that?
So that would be the instantaneous maximum AC nameplate production. So, potentially at the most productive point of the day, we would see 230 megawatts AC of energy at one instantaneous moment in time. Depending on what the solar activity is throughout the day, that'll dictate the daily production. It's typically rated in megawatt hours, but that varies from day to day.
That makes sense. So what is your annual projected projection from a megawatt perspective?
It would be somewhere in the neighborhood of like 340,000 megawatt hours, which is pretty significant.
Okay. One question I have is Cypress County currently, our production, crop production and agriculture production is centered around, different modes of production, but this cultivated land is class 3 soils. In the county, less than 10% of our soils for agricultural capability are class 3 or better. Is there a reason you chose some of the best soil in the county to put a solar project on?
Well, there's a lot of things that go into siting these projects. First of all, we look at it from a grid perspective, try to find out where the export capacity is. As you can see, there's this 240 kV line running right through the property, so that favors well for us. The second thing we look for is landowner willingness, and in this case, Yankee Farms and the Yankee family have supported this objective for solar. I understand that the land has been cultivated and protected as organic for quite some time, and the family feels that it's Oroville's desire to do something of this nature, although of course he can't speak to that.
But another important fact to note is the site is literally a perfect location for solar. It's some of the highest solar yield in all of Canada, just slightly Regway, or sorry, just kidding. It's not too far from there is the highest irradiance in all of Canada. So it's very significant there. It is quite reasonably flat. There's a low overall wetland impact, low environmental impact. It's a very premium site. We did not specifically look for Class 3 farmlands.
Yeah, at the time, we started citing this project in 2020, and the discussion wasn't around, the classification of farmland. The conversation that Anthony and I were focused on at the time with Alberta Environment was, going on to disturbed lands. That's really where Alberta Environment had pointed any renewable developer. So steering clear of native prairie, steering clear of crown land, staying away from anything that has trees on it. So, again, being cultivated in nature and having a willing landowner, it seemed like a good fit.
I have a basic concern that you see that can you see the map that's up on the soil classification map that's up on the screen?
No, I can't. No, I'm looking at the solar facility map.
Because where you're proposing this project is, like I said earlier, some of the best land in the area, and there's some marginal lands all around there. This land, 820 acres, would produce about 40 bushels of wheat per acre per year, which calculates out to about 328 or 32,800 bushels of grain. If you produce 42 loaves of bread per bushel of grain, you're taking out of production 1.377 million loaves of bread per year. And I have a bit of an issue removing our food production for solar production that completely eliminates all agricultural production on the property. I mean, do you plan on doing anything agricultural with the property, grazing sheep or goats or anything like that?
Well, I mean, we do have a vegetation plan. That vegetation is going to need to be maintained. And, the plan was anything that was cut from the land would be baled and used for feed production if possible. So that was one idea that's been discussed. These 6 quarters are part of a larger land package that the Yonke family holds. And so they saw it as a great way to diversify their income and to support their other farming operations. So to, just to provide financial stability and to ensure that any upgrades that they want to do on other pieces of land or, they have, I believe it's close to 20 other quarters in the area. This can provide financial income to support those ag operations as well.
So was any of your criteria the loss of agricultural production when you're deciding where to build this project?
Well, we're certainly aware of it. There's lots of talks about agrivoltaics in the industry right now. So yeah, sheep grazing is definitely being discussed. We've been focused on that for the last year and a bit, along with, we see it viable to have the right machinery at the site and to, again, bale hay for feed or bale grasses for feed. That's also entirely viable. We're in the business of solar production, so we'll have to partner with the appropriate person to do those works. But we think it's very possible.
So you're saying you can bale hay underneath the solar panels?
Yes.
You sure about that?
Well, you would need the right machinery. The row spacing is 4 meters. So, with the right equipment and with the right baler, you'd be able to, we've talked to some folks that have said that it's reasonable to get a small bale, 3-string baler through there.
Between the panel rows. Okay. I'll open the floor to questions otherwise. Dan, go ahead.
Just a question on your decommissioning. I see you guys put quite a bit of effort into that, but with the AUC on that, you have it down here as a beneficiary of Cypress County to take care of that. That, when we first discussed with you, that isn't where we were heading with it. That should be under Yankee. Cypress County just wanted to make sure that it was going to be taken care of for the decommissioning and the funds would be there at the end. But in no means does Cypress County want to be involved in having to collect that or be involved in it. I'm glad that you set that forward. Was that your guys' decision or was that AUC's decision to put it that way? I know there's been quite a bit going forward there.
I believe that happened when we were sitting in front of the council whenever that was, last fall, I believe. So that is just a technicality. We can change that. I think it was my understanding that the county had required that from us, but we can certainly change that. It was more industry practice to have the bond held with the landowner. That's not a problem to change that.
Yeah, I guess the concern there was that the landowner might somehow, take the benefit and not reclaim the land. So our understanding was Cypress County wanted to have some control over that and be involved in the reclamation so that it gets returned back to as found. We don't see that as a concern with this landowner, but if there's a way that you want to change it, we can
The way the
definitely
bond
look at
is structured, that would be very hard to do anyways. It's not really possible. So we're happy to have the bond held with whoever the county desires, I suppose is the best way to put it.
Yeah, we just wanted to make sure there was a bond in place that it would have a chance to be reclaimed at the end and not have it go through a bankruptcy and have a bankruptcy lawyer take all that funding away and we're left with a mess in the county afterwards. But, Kayleen?
Yeah, through the chair, we had some discussion as well. Aura Power had come to council and provided a couple of presentations and a couple of updates. The soil classification was brought up as a concern at the time, as well as reclamation security. And I think where that direction was geared was right at kind of the height of when the AUC was gearing up to do their review. And the concept of the county being the beneficiary of the security was brought up kind of as an option to advocate to RMA and to the AUC, and that was a concept that we had brought forward. But I don't think, and sorry for the misclarification on that, Victor and Anthony, I think the intent was still for the landowner to be the holder of that security.
Okay. Well, I think we can still make that change.
Yeah, it's nothing serious. I'm glad to see it's there. Just
Yeah.
straighten it out before it goes through.
Okay. Maybe
Michelle.
just while there's
Go ahead, Michelle.
while there's
I
sorry,
have
just
a
one
question.
more comment. Okay.
Oh.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Sorry, I just wanted to jump in between questions and just say, it's a very minor detail, but one of the land parcels is actually in a different numbered company name. It's still owned by the same group, by the Yankee family. So maybe just so that the paperwork is 100% accurate, if it says that it's under this one single numbered company, there's a slight change to one of the parcels. It's got a very minor name change. So just a note there.
I'm just looking for clarification, I guess. On that 12.21.6, it says that when the energy facility is decommissioned, the landowner will be required to return it to the solar energy facility location to the same land capability. And then, I don't know, it just confused me. I'm not sure. I saw that you have a detailed decommissioning report, but when I read this, to me, it seems like the landowner should have one. But I just need clarification on that, really. It confused me.
No, it's our responsibility. So I'd be interested to review that language and just to make sure that it's on us. It's on the lessee, not the lessor, to reclaim the land to as found.
That's kind of what I figured, but when I read this 12.21.6, it kind of seems like it's the landowner's responsibility. So I just was seeking clarification, that was all.
Okay, yeah, it's certainly within our responsibility, so whatever we need to do to change that language, happy to look at that after.
Kayleen, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We're enacted by two different regulatory documents. So under the Municipal Government Act, when it comes down to enforcement of a land use bylaw, the enforcement proceedings have to be with the landowner of the land. It can't be through a leasee. So in the event if we end up in a position where we have to enforce the reclamation, it will be enforcement on behalf of the landowner and not whoever the operator of the solar project is. So that's why it's critical that we have that decommissioning plan, and it's critical that landowners have that embedded in their lease agreements, that they have that own protection of their own, if in the event they ever have to undertake those proceedings.
Any other discussion? So first for consideration is 24/142.
Mr. Chairman, if I may. Just a friendly reminder that the developer is also seeking setback relaxations from road allowances. And so as you're going through each of the development permits, each one of those permits has to have its own consideration for a variance, and that variance made a condition on the permit. So Erin's got sample conditions outlined for you, and I think it's the last condition on her recommendation. We will have to fill that in with the setback relaxation that the Planning Commission is approving.
So for each application, there's a different setback requirement. Okay, so let's look at the first one, 24/142. What's the setback requirement for that?
Mr. Chairman, the variance would be 13 meters, 42.6 feet, and the land use bylaw would require a 40-meter setback. So the variance is 13 meters.
From the center line of which township or range road?
For the first one, it would be from the center line of Range Road 62.
In other projects, have we gone the setback relaxation routes?
Mr. Chairman, not that I can remember. Do you remember any?
No, through the chair, I think for the most part, most other projects have abided by the setback requirements in the land use bylaw. But hearing Victor and Anthony's presentation, I think that there's more of a technical reason as to why they weren't able to meet the setbacks. So really, I think if the county had opposition to the setback variances through the AUC process, that would have been our opportune time to intervene and request that they meet the setbacks. So being now that the AUC has approved this, we essentially have to be in line with their decision.
Not regarding setbacks.
Regarding setbacks as well, for the placement of the panels.
Okay. Well, this may be a moot point, but is there a rationale for the setbacks, Mr. Palaschuk or Mr. Betta?
Well, I guess our understanding was that snow drifts were a concern. We understand the prevailing winds to be out of the southwest. And, you know, we've got, there's a number of things at play here, but, you know, we've got the road allowances on the undeveloped roadways are with the same landowner. You know, we're happy to deal with the primary concern, which is the snow drift as a condition of our approval. So, you know, in the situation where we would get accumulation, it would be monitored and removed as one of our responsibilities. And I think that was really the main thing that, you know, we thought would be reasonable to allow us to proceed.
So in your opinion, there's no way to do the project without complying with the setback? Did you look at the setback in the backs in the bylaw before you planned the project, or was that considered?
Yeah, well, it was considered. Yeah, it's a good question. I don't have the history off the top of my head here.
Yeah, I think what really happened was the design got pushed as we got pushed around by the wetlands requirements and a few variables like that. The interconnecting undeveloped road allowances that connect the project, we did not see that as being a big concern internally. Now, I know the one is setback is kind of onto the black and white trail. And we had some discussions with our technical team, and I think we could probably, without anything too critical, we could meet that one, which would probably be, I'm assuming, the greatest concern. Interested to hear what the council thinks about that proposal.
Yeah, I have less concern with the internal undeveloped road allowances than I do with black and white.
Yeah. So, I mean, cumulatively, all of these setbacks make a significant impact to the overall output capacity of the facility, which, you know, makes the land less usable for us. And then it also dramatically affects our economics. But then also, again, as I said before, the timeline considerations are quite impactful to us. You know, as we move panels around into other areas or remove them from some other areas, we'll have to go through quite lengthy Water Act approvals with the province. You know, Water Act approvals are not the same for different developments. We're finding that for solar developments, they're quite lengthy. So that presents quite a bit of risk to some other things that we already have on the go. So.
That's a question to ask. Go ahead, Dan.
So if we allow this setback, you're willing to take on the snow removal on the black and white if there's a buildup due to this? That's what you're
Yes.
saying in there?
Yeah.
I mean, that only affects one of the parcels, the black and white, right?
Yeah.
So, and he said that they maybe could redesign it. Did you say it's possible to comply with setbacks on the black and white and we'd relax the other ones?
Well, the
Yes.
impact to Northeast 35 is less significant than the overall impact. The panels are only occupying approximately 350 meters on the black and white trail, not the full 800-meter quarter section.
Yeah, we
So-
lost quite a bit of solar panel land there due to the Phrygianus hawk pair that's nesting there. That's a 1 kilometer setback. So that one should be relatively minor for us to adjust with a pretty major impact overall, I think, on the setbacks.
Soft. Okay, well, this, I guess we could, we know where you sit on that, and perhaps we could come up with an alternative proposal for that one, and then we can get going on these other ones if that works.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's reasonable for us, from our perspective. It's reasonable if we, take care of the snow on the other parcels and pull back a couple of the panel rows on Northeast 35.
Okay, so this one you will meet the setback on then?
On 35, which application is that one, Aaron?
Through the chair, I believe it's 24/145. That's north of
145.
4596 west of the 4th.
45.
Or is that the first one?
Okay, so the first one we're considering is, and we'll hit that one as we get to it. So right now, we're doing 142 with the setback relaxation from the undeveloped road allowance, correct?
It's 13 meters on 62.
13 meters on 62, which is undeveloped road allowance, for clarification.
I'll move that if they're taking care of snow.
Okay, so Dan moves approval of of development application 24-142 with conditions as presented. All those in favor? Carried.
Do they need to write that down for the, you have the 13 meters? Okay.
So that 13 will be included in that. Okay, and then next is 143. And what do we have for setback relaxations on 143, Aaron?
Mr. Chairman, that is 15.2 meters, 49.8 feet, variance from the center line of the undeveloped portion of Range Road 62.
Okay, do you want to move that one?
Sure.
Okay, so Lloyd moves approval of development application 143 with setback as stated, setback relaxations as stated. All those in favor? Carried. Now on to 144. What are the setback relaxations on 144?
Mr. Chairman, the setback relaxation is 15.4 meters, 50.5 feet from the center line of undeveloped portion of Range Road 62.
Okay, so undeveloped road lines again. Michelle moves approval of that with the setback relaxation. All those in favor? Carried. So now we are on to 145, which is the parcel adjacent to the black and white trail.
And this one, there's no setback.
No setback within this permit. Okay, no setback relaxation with this, within this permit. They've committed to complying with those, correct? Okay. So Amanda moves approval of 24/145. All those in favor? Carried.
No,
No, there's no amendment to that.
there's no setback on that one.
No setback amendments to that.
Yeah, but it says there is, right?
Yeah,
That's what I'm
but-
asking.
No, we didn't approve it with any setback.
Do we
They're
have
going to
say that?
comply to. Well, because we're not adding it into that line.
Okay,
There's,
Yeah, we're not adding it. Yeah, okay.
then yes, I'm in favor.
Okay, all, see, so we have a, then next is 24/146, and what do we have for setback relaxation requirements on that one?
Mr. Chairman, the setback is 14.8 meters, 48.5 feet from the center line of the developed portion at Township Road 100.
I'll move it.
Dan moves approval with setback relaxation as stated. All those in favor? Carried. Okay, so next for consideration is 24/147. What are the setback relaxations for that?
Okay, Mr. Chairman, that's 13 meters, 42.6 feet from the center line of developed Township Road 100, and a 1 meter, 3.3 variance from the center line of the developed portion of Township Road 62.
Okay with that one? You moving that, Dan?
Yeah, Lloyd's moving it.
Lloyd moves that one? Okay, so Lloyd moves approval of development application 24/147 with amendments as stated. All those in favor? Carried. All right, so your development permit has been approved, subject to meeting the conditions which were previously discussed. The county will mail you a copy of your development permit. Since this is a discretionary use, there's now a 3-week appeal period that the public may appeal the issuance of this permit. The permit will be advertised in the Cypress Courier newspaper for a duration of 3 consecutive weeks. If no appeal is filed within that time, it will become valid. The permit will become valid. If you have any further questions, you may contact the development officer to discuss them after today's meeting. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay, next for consideration today is Nature Fresh Growers, Juan Freeze or Froze? Froze? Would you want to take one of the chairs up front? And if you have someone else, you can bring them as well if there's somebody else putting input into. would you like to introduce yourself, sir? You just push the button on the microphone there to speak.
My name is Cornelius Wiebe.
Okay. And what is your relation to this application? Okay. All right, thank you. Okay, so again, this is subdivision application 24CY08. Becky, go ahead, please.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. So this is a Ward 6 agricultural subdivision, like you said, number 24CY08. The owner and applicant is Nature Fresh Growers, Inc., and this is located at the corner of Township Road 112 and Range Road 65 on the northwest 811-6 west of the 4th. And the proposal is to subdivide an 8.81 hectare parcel from a previously subdivided quarter section to create a separate title for family planning purposes. This application is intended to subdivide 8.81 hectares or 21.7 acre parcel from a previously subdivided quarter section, essentially splitting the existing parcel in half. The purpose of the proposed subdivision is to create separate titles for each owner of the property. The remainder of the agricultural title appears to contain wheel move irrigation and is 17.6 hectares or 43.4 acres. There are no oil or gas wells within a 100-meter radius of the proposed subdivision. I just want to note that we did conduct a site inspection, and there is wheel move irrigation, and it appears there's two separate systems set up that appear to follow the proposed subdivision boundary. The applicant is proposing the subdivision to allow for the agricultural parcel to be split evenly between himself and his brother. The two purchased the property together 7 years ago under a corporation and would now like to each have their own title to allow for the opportunity to build a house and do their own farming. There are currently two separate yard sites on the property. Each yard site currently has an access approach, one from Township Road 112 and one from Range Road 65. In addition, each yard site contains a residence and multiple accessory buildings. A land use amendment has not been submitted as the parcel sizes being proposed would not comply with the maximum parcel size requirements of 10 acres for the Country Residential District 2 of the Land Use Bylaw. There is no information on file regarding the first subdivision taken from the quarter section. However, it appears to have been due to the involuntary severance created by the railroad tracks. Therefore, the proposed subdivision will result in the third and final title to be taken out of the quarter section. The proposed subdivision is located outside of the Tri-Area Intermunicipal Development Plan boundary. The South Saskatchewan Regional Plan states that municipalities are to identify their agricultural land and to limit fragmentation and conversion to non-agricultural uses. Under the implementation section of the plan, Section 5, Efficient Use of Land, it states that the land use framework promotes approaches to reduce the amount of land that is taken up by permanent or long-term development by utilizing the minimum amount of land necessary. Section 666(1) of the Municipal Government Act states that the subdivision authority may require the owner of a parcel of land that is subject of a proposed subdivision to provide reserve. Money in place of municipal reserve is recommended on the subdivided parcel. Part 2.9 road access of the subdivision regulation states that every proposed subdivision must provide direct access to a road or lawful means of access satisfactory to the subdivision authority to each lot that is created. Section 4.1.2, Conservation of Irrigated Farmland, states that the county shall protect and retain irrigated farmland for agricultural purposes to support the viability of agricultural operations and preservation of improved and productive agricultural farmland. Section 4.1.22, Subdivision Agriculture of the Municipal Development Plan, states that the county may support the subdivision of larger tracts of land used for dryland agricultural operations into smaller parcels used for intensive or irrigated agricultural operations. And utility easements may be required between the proposed parcel and the remainder of the agricultural title. When we circulated the application, we received some comments back. Cypress County Finances replied that there are 2 local improvements of private dust control associated with the property. Planning and Development replied that the proposed subdivision is intended to subdivide an existing residence and to facilitate the separation of the existing agricultural parcel between family members for future estate planning. Section 4.1.22, Subdivision Agriculture, states that the county may support the subdivision of dry land agricultural lands where the subdivision results in smaller parcels to be used for intensive agricultural or irrigation operations. Additionally, Section 4.1.2, Conservation of Irrigated Farmland of the Municipal Development Plan, states that the county shall protect and retain irrigated farmland for agricultural purposes to support the viability of agricultural operations and preservation of improved and productive agricultural farmland. The proposed subdivision area is irrigated by 2 individual wheel move irrigation systems, and it does not appear that the subdivision would impact or reduce the irrigable lands. The subdivision as proposed complies with Section 4.1.22 and 4.1.2 of the Municipal Development Plan. Cypress County Public Works replied that they have no comments. Apex Utilities replied that they have no objection to the proposed subdivision. However, please note that they have a high-pressure pipeline right-of-way within the area to be subdivided. Fortis Alberta replied that they are the distribution wire service provider for the area and that no easement is required. TELUS replied that they will require a utility right-of-way in order to provide service to this new subdivision development. Please have this requirement added as a condition of approval and have the applicant contact TELUS to initiate a utility right-of-way agreement. The Environment, Land, and Gas Production Department replied that they have reviewed the subdivision application and has the following comments. Surface improvements are not permitted within the City of Medicine Hat pipeline utility right-of-way and within 100 meters of any City of Medicine Hat wellhead unless the landowner applies to and receives approval from the Alberta Energy Regulator and the city for setback reduction. And any ground disturbances or surface improvements within 30 meters of any City of Medicine Hat gas pipeline or within 100 meters of any gas wells will require a crossing or proximity agreement. St. Mary's River Irrigation District replied that utility easements will likely be required between the proposed parcel and the remainder of the agricultural title. Each of the properties will require a household purposes agreement if they would like water for their yards, and they will need to contact SMER directly to get the agreements in place. Additionally, the proposed subdivided parcels are under the alternative parcel agreements. APAs are not permanent acres and are a method for a landowner to receive irrigation acres by negotiating agreements with owners of other parcels. And the Cypress County Assessor provided a market value assessment rate of $22,257.27 per hectare for money in place of municipal reserve purposes. So if I move on to my recommendation, Mr. Chairman, it is approval subject to 5 conditions. Number 1, the developer is required to enter into a utility right-of-way agreement with TELUS. The developer is to provide a copy of the executed agreement to the county prior to the subdivision's registration with Alberta Land Titles. Number 2, the developer is required to provide Cypress County Finances with written notification to transfer the local improvement tax for dust control to each subdivided parcel prior to the subdivision's registration with Alberta Land Titles. Number 3, it is the developer's responsibility to enter into any necessary agreements with St. Mary's River Irrigation District for the supply of water to the proposed subdivision and the remnant parcel. The developer will be required to provide written evidence that the requirements of SMERD have been satisfied prior to the subdivision's registration with Alberta Land Titles. Number 4, the developer is required to make a payment to the county for money in place of municipal reserve for 8.81 hectares at a rate of $2,225.72 per hectare, being 10% of the appraised market value of $22,257.27 per hectare. The payment is to be submitted to the county prior to the subdivision's registration with Alberta Land Titles. And finally, number 5, our standard condition, the developer is required to supply copies of any utility right-of-way plans, easements, or agreements which are to be registered as a requirement for any affected utilities to Cypress County prior to the subdivision's registration with Alberta Land Titles. And that is my report, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Becky. Mr. Froese, would you like to speak to your application at this time?
I'm not sure what I still would have to say. That we just wanted to subdivide it so we could get a loan to build a house. So That's why we're subdividing it. The banks won't let us get the loan for the house if you want to build a house, both of us. So
Gotcha.
we're planning on maybe building a house this year yet, and he will probably in a year or two. So we figure we subdivided it right away if we can.
Okay. Do you currently irrigate the land then with the APA agreement? You currently irrigate the land with the alternate parcel agreement?
Yes, we are, yeah.
Is there a SMRD turnout there or a canal close by?
Yes, there's a turnout, one of them, yeah.
Okay. The only issue I have is fracturing irrigated land and taking it out of production, but you could potentially put a small pivot on there if you wanted, but by creating two parcels, you will eliminate that potential.
Yeah, but it has wheel moves on there now. So
Yeah, it's like a triangle piece of land. It's really hard to put a pivot on there. Wheel moves is the best idea for that piece, I think.
Yeah. Okay, I'll open the floor to discussion. Amanda? Okay. Amanda moves approval of subdivision application 24CY08 with conditions as presented. All those in favor? Carried. Okay, your subdivision has been approved, subject to meeting the conditions which were previously discussed. The county will now mail you a copy of your subdivision approval. You're advised to begin working towards completing the necessary conditions and making the arrangements to have the subdivided area surveyed if you have not already done so. You have 1 year from the subdivision's approval date to have met all of the approval conditions and have the survey plan admitted to Alberta Land Titles for the registration of the separate titles. If you have any further questions, you can contact Becky after today's meeting to discuss them. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Okay, so we're a little bit behind schedule for those of you that just joined us, so just please be patient today. Next up is development application 24-148, Stephen Pugh. Would you take one of the chairs up front, please? 148. Okay, Mr. Pugh, so this is again 148. Aaron, do you want to take this away, please?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The application's in Ward 4. The owner and applicant is Stephen Pugh. The subject site is located at number 5, 12303 Highway 41. The site is zoned Country Residential 1 in the land use bylaw and is 5.96 acres, 2.41 hectares in area. The applicant is requesting approval from the MPC to construct a 2,400 square foot, 222.9 square meter shop. This results in a total building area relaxation request of 800 square feet, 74.3 square meters for the proposed shop. The shop will be used for storing personal property. Section 16.61 of the land use bylaw. Development Authority shall review each DP application based on its merit and determine its compliance with the bylaw. When the development permit application includes variance requests or discretionary uses, the Development Authority shall assess the application as outlined on the following criteria in accordance with Section 640 sub 6 of the MGA. Will the application unduly interfere with the amenities of the neighborhood or materially interfere with or affect the use, enjoyment, or value of neighboring parcels of land? And is the use, does it conform with the prescribed land or with the use in the land use bylaw? So under land use bylaw 2022-09, under section 6.12 development regulations for development in the country residential district 1, it states single accessory building shall not exceed 1,600 square feet in area. The applicant is requesting to construct a 2,400 square foot shop. This would result in a variance of 800 square feet for the building area of the shop. The maximum building area for all accessory buildings allowed under section 6.1.2 in the CR district is 2,800 square feet. An existing 14 foot by 14 foot shed is situated on the site at the pro shop is approved by MPC. The applicant would have only 204 square feet, 19 square meters remaining for future accessory buildings. The front, rear, and side setbacks and height of the proposed shop meet the requirements of section 6.12 of the land use bylaw. Signatures from adjacent property owners in the subdivision stating that they did not have objections to the proposed shop was submitted with the application. There's an environmental easement registered on the title of the property due to Ross Creek bisecting it. The easement limits the developable area of this parcel. The proposed shop is outside the 1 in 100 year flood fringe for Ross Creek and is not impacted by the environmental easement. The setback of the shop from the top of bank of Ross Creek is approximately 40 meters, which exceeds the 30-meter setback requirement for developments near water bodies required under section 11.7.8B in the land use bylaw. We referred this to Alberta Transportation and Economic Corridors, and they had no objections. The recommended motion is for approval. Conditions 1 through 7 are standard conditions, or 1 through 8 are standard conditions. And number 9 is approving a total building area relaxation of 800 square feet, 74.3 square meters for the detached garage. The alternate motion that MPC can consider is non-support of the application because it does not meet section 6.12 of the land use bylaw. And I do have some photos. Just switch glasses here. Okay, so in this photo, we're looking east, and the proposed shop location's on the left. And then we're looking north. The proposed shop location is basically in the center of the photo. Northeast, again, there's trees and stuff on the north property line, so that provides some screening. And we're looking west, and we're looking at the house, basically. Then we're looking south. We're quite far away from the bank of Ross Creek, so there's no impacts there. And Mr. Chairman, this concludes my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Aaron. Stephen, first of all, how do you pronounce your last name?
Pew.
Pew? Okay, all right, it was correct. Okay. Would you like to speak to your application at this time?
No, I got really nothing to say other than,
Okay.
covered it.
Again, thanks for consulting with your neighbors. It's good to see that sort of information come forth. Appreciate that. Open the floor to discussion. It's just like that. Dan moves approval of development permit 24/148 with conditions as presented. All those in favor? Carried. Your development application has been approved, subject to meeting the conditions which were previously discussed. The county will mail you a copy of your development permit. Since this is a discretionary use, there's now a 3-week appeal period that the public may appeal the issuance of this permit. The permit will be advertised in Cypress Courier newspaper for a duration of 3 consecutive weeks. If no appeal is filed within those 21 days, the permit will become valid at that time. If you have any further questions, you can talk to Aaron after today's meeting. Thank you very much. Sort of. It's kind of sometimes I miss a lot. Mumble. I've said it enough, Becky. Everybody's just happy I don't have the refusal memorized. All right, so next up is the development application 24/149. Roland Weisbrot. Can you please take one of the chairs, please, Roland? Did I pronounce your name correct, Weisbrot?
That's an anglicization, but that's okay. Thank you.
What would you prefer?
The Weisbrot, but that's fine.
Weisbrot?
Yeah, it's a proper German name.
All right.
But thank you.
Sounds good, I like that. Okay, so again, we have development permit 24/149. Go ahead, Aaron.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman. The proposal is in Ward 6, and it's for front steps and deck with a variance. The applicant and landowner is Roland Wiesbrot. The applicant is requesting approval from the MPC for the placement of 8-foot by 16-foot front deck and steps with a proposed setback distance at 5.2 meters, 17 feet from the front property line. This results in a relaxation of 2.4 meters, 7.8 feet. The existing dwelling on the site has a setback of 7.29 meters, 23.9 feet, which is less than the required front setback of 7.6 meters, 25 feet in section 7.1.2 of the bylaw. This causes the house to be a non-conforming building. Under section 3.3.2C, a non-conforming building cannot be enlarged, added to, rebuilt, or structurally altered unless it's in accordance with the variance powers of the Development Authority. Proposals to enlarge or add to non-conforming buildings must be brought to the Municipal Planning Commission for decision. Section 11.17.2B of the land use bylaw allows an unenclosed deck to project up to 1.5 meters, 5 feet into the front setback. The proposed deck will project about 2.4 meters into the front setback, resulting in a variance request of 5.2 meters, 17 feet. The applicant is requesting that the Municipal Planning Commission approve this variance request. The site coverage with the unenclosed deck and steps is approximately 31.4%, which is within the 10% discretion to approve without a stormwater management plan. Section 16.6.1 of the Land Use Bylaw, the Development Authority shall review each development permit based on its own merits, and variances would be subject to the rules under Section 640 of the MGA. Basically, you can't unduly interfere with the amenities of the neighborhood, materially interfere with the effect, use, or enjoyment or value of adjacent parcels, and the proposed development must conform with the land use, with the uses in the land use bylaw. Relevant legislation, land use bylaw 2022-09, under the Hamlet Residential District, under section 3.3.2C, as I said before, a non-conforming building cannot be enlarged, added to, or rebuilt, or structurally altered unless it is in accordance with the variance powers of the Development Authority. Section 11.17.2B of the Land Use Bylaw allows an unenclosed deck to project up to 5 feet into the front setback. The proposed deck will project about 2.4 meters into the front setback, resulting in a setback variance request of 5.2 meters, 17 feet. I circulated this application to our Public Works Department, and they had no objections or comments. Recommended motion is to approve 24/149. Conditions 1 through 7 are standard conditions, and condition number 8 approves the setback relaxation of 2.4 meters. The alternate motion is for MPC to have non-support for the development permit because it does not comply with section 7.1.2, and I do have some photos. Switch glasses. Okay, so we're looking north at the house. So there's the decks and steps, and that's the front yard. Then we're looking northwest. Again, that's the proposed decks and steps. And we're looking south. This is basically the intersection. And as we can see, the intersection is clear. It's not impacted by the decks or steps at all. In the next photo, we're looking south. That's the house across the street. Then the next photo, we're looking west. We're looking at where the steps and decks are, and there's absolutely no impact to visibility on that corner. And Mr. Chairman, that concludes my presentation. Thank you.
Just for clarification, proposed is existing?
Yes, so I can speak to that if you would like, Mr. Chairman.
Go ahead, Mr. Vice President.
Thank you. Roland is also good. I know sometimes ethnic names aren't fun. Anyway, basically what ended up happening is our front deck was rotting completely, and we had to remove it. It wasn't even properly drilled into the ground, so it actually wasn't even properly in the ground, and it was starting to collapse, so we decided to act quickly and remove it. Now, I have multiple degrees in history and philosophy, which means I'm useless at doing anything actually real, like screwing in nails. So I understand that the Latin principle in jurisprudence, ignorantia juris non excusat, ignorance of the law doesn't excuse But we honestly didn't think we were going to need a permit for this because we were attaching the deck to the exact same place. We didn't feel as though we were going to have any problems. We consulted neighbors, they seemed to think it's okay, but then we double-checked and looked into it and realized that it was going to be in violation and then went right away to apply for this permit. Our intention was not to build first, but my brother-in-law, who is a professional deck builder, came and took a week off of his work to come, and that was in July, and that's why the deck was completed prior to the approval process. And my apologies for that. I mean, no disrespect to this commission.
Well, thank you for being forthright. That's refreshing. I'll open the floor to discussion. Lloyd jumps to move to approve this development application 24/149. All those in favor? Carried. So your development application has been approved, subject to meeting the conditions of which were previously discussed. The Cypress County will now mail you a copy of your permit. There is a 3-week appeal period that the public may appeal the issuance of this permit. The permit will be advertised in Cypress Courier newspaper for a duration of 3 consecutive weeks. If no appeal is filed within those 21 days, the permit will become valid at that time. If you have any questions, you may contact Aaron after today's meeting to talk about them. Thank you. I didn't. Kind of got it. Showing off. Okay, next for consideration, Alberta Ag Center 24/150. Mr. Mellon? Have I got your name correct? Yeah. Okay, good. All right, so this is 24/150, development application 24/150. Aaron, go ahead, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is in Ward 5. The owner is Zion Real Estate Limited. The applicant is Alberta Ag Center. The applicant is requesting approval from the MPC to install one freestanding illuminated sign measuring 6.9 meters in height and a sign area of 114.9 square feet, which is about 10.6 square meters. The applicant is proposing an 8.2 foot, 2.5 meter variance to the minimum vertical clearance requirement at the bottom of the sign. The subject site is located at 47 East 3rd Avenue in Dunmore and is zoned Hamlet Commercial District in Land Use Bylaw 22/09. Again, under section 16.61 of the Land Use Bylaw, the Development Authority shall review each development permit based on its merit and determine its compliance with the bylaw. When a development permit application includes variances, requests, and discretionary uses, the Development Authority shall assess the application as outlined below as per the MGA section 640. So basically, you can't impact the amenities and affect the use and enjoyment and value of neighboring parcels of land. And a sign is an allowed use in the Hamlet Commercial District, so it meets number B there. Relevant legislation, Land Use Bylaw 22/09, freestanding signs are permitted uses in the Hamlet Commercial District. The proposed 23-foot high, 7-meter high sign with an area of 114.9 square feet meets the requirements of section 15.9.1 of the Land Use Bylaw. One variance is requested for the freestanding sign proposed on the site. Section 15.9.1 requires a minimum vertical clearance of 9.8 feet, about 3 meters, between ground level and the bottom of the sign. The applicant has indicated that the freestanding sign is a corporate standard, which is used in other locations of Alberta, and redesigning the sign would be complex. The applicant has applied to Alberta Transportation and Economic Corridors for a permit for the freestanding sign. We also circulated the application to Alberta Transportation and Economic Corridors, and they indicated that the applicant needs to get a permit for a highway development. Public Works, we circulated this to our Public Works Department and the utilities, no conflicts, no comments, and the roads had no comments. So our recommended motion is for approval of DP 24/150. Conditions 1 through 6 are standard, and condition 7, any increase in sign area must be approved by Cypress County. Condition number 8, the minimum vertical clearance relaxation of 8.3 feet, 2.5 meters for the freestanding sign is approved. And number 9, it's the responsibility of the developer and/or owner to obtain any necessary approvals from Alberta Transportation. The alternate motion for MPC would be to refuse DP 24-150 because it does not comply with section 15.9.1 of the land use bylaw. And I did take some photos of the site. So here's a close-up of the proposed sign location. Looking east now, the proposed sign location is located on the left-hand side, as shown in the photo. We're looking north, and that's where the sign's located. Looking south, then we're looking west. And Mr. Chairman, that concludes my presentation for this one. Thank you.
Thank you, Aaron. Mr. Mellon, would you like to speak to your application? Or?
No, I don't really know what to say. I kind of just took over in April and got tasked with doing this.
Okay.
So I'm just kind of learning what to do.
Good. Thrown to the wolves right away, huh? Okay. Michelle moves approval of development application 24/150 with conditions as presented. All those in favor? Carried. So your development permit has been approved, subject to meeting the conditions which were previously presented. Cypress County will now mail you a copy of your permit. The permit will be advertised in the Cypress Courier newspaper for a duration of 3 consecutive weeks. If no appeal is filed within that 21 days, the permit will become valid at that time. If you have any further questions, you can contact Aaron after today's meeting. Thank you. You too. Last but not least, Mr. Bolin, Bolin Construction et al. Well, we know Mike and we know you.
Yes, I've got a friend.
And who's your friend? Okay. Please introduce yourself. Good, okay, thank you. Oh, yeah, of course you are. Okay, so this is development permit 24/34. Aaron, please go ahead.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman. This application's in Ward 4. The owner is 40 Mile Holdings and Jack Dozer's Holdings Limited. The applicant is Evolve Surface Strategies, who are the agent for Bolin Construction. Bolin Construction Company, the operator is proposing to operate a Class 1 natural resource extraction processing use within the southeast 2811-5 west of 4th. The subject site is zoned Agriculture District 2 in the current land use bylaw. The proposed gravel pit is located approximately 4 kilometers southwest of Dunmore. Approval number 6-15654 and registration number 15654-02-00 were granted by the province in 2011 under the Environmental Protection and Enhancement Act. The EPEA approval was transferred to Burn West Corporation, and then from Burn West Corporation to Burnco Rock Products on June 1st, 2020, and the EPEA registration 15654 was transferred from Burnco to what is now Bolin Construction on July 13th, 2023. The subject site is north of Township Road 114 and between Range Road 53 and Range Road 54. The land is owned by 40 Mile Holdings and Jack Dozer Holdings. Access to the proposed gravel pit will be via Range Road 53 and Township Road 114. The road network serving the proposed gravel pit includes Black and White Trail, Range Road 54 to the west, and Eagle Butte Road, Range Road 51 to the east. Connecting to the arterial road, Township Road 120. Traffic impact assessment was submitted with the application. Gravel pit traffic will be directed west on Range Road 54. Under the Guide to Code of Practice of Pits published by Alberta Environment, gravel pits which are greater than 5 hectares, 25 acres, require approval by Alberta Environment and the municipal authority and are classified as Class 1 pits. Class 1 gravel pits are required to satisfy the requirements under the EPEA, the Environmental Protection Guidelines for Pits, the Water Act, the Conservation and Reclamation Regulation, and all statutory or regulation requirements that may apply. The proposed pit's surface disturbance area is 20 hectares in area. There is an estimated 943,000 cubic meters of aggregate, about 333,000 tons within the pit area, and it'll take 10 to 15 years to deplete. Bullen Construction intends to use the aggregate for development projects in the area. The development of the site will consist of 5 phases. Phase 1 of the project, located in the northeast corner of the site, will contain the site access, scale, and site trailer. Phases 2 through 5 will be developed in sequence. Progressive remediation of the pit will begin immediately after each phase is depleted. Dust and noise mitigation, Section 3.2.6 of the Environmental Studies for Development Permit application addresses methods that will be used to control noise and dust in the pits. The subject site is located in a predominantly agriculture area, and the nearest country residential subdivision is over 600 meters, about 2,000 feet to the west of the pit. Dust and noise must be mitigated to minimize any negative impacts the pit operations may cause to these residential properties. Mitigation efforts to reduce the amount of dust from operation activities will include the following techniques as necessary: locating the crusher below surface grade to minimize dust levels, maintain and clean equipment regularly, use fine spray or misting system on crushing machinery, consider the size and type of equipment for the job, seed and contour stockpiles to reduce wind erosion, water haul roads for dry periods to reduce airborne dust generated by vehicle movement, shut down operations during periods of high winds when insufficient control methods are in place. Haul trucks, vehicles, machinery, crushers, and generators are the main contributors to noise in gravel pits. To reduce the noise generated from the gravel pit operations, the following noise mitigation efforts will be implemented as necessary. Locate the crusher below surface grade, selection of equipment that has taken noise reduction into account, preventative maintenance of noise-producing features in all equipment and vehicles, minimizing the fall height of material during excavation and processing of the aggregate, maintenance of on-site roadways to eliminate washboards and ruts, and land use. The landowner has requested that the proposed end land use of the gravel pit will be tame pasture. The land within the pit boundaries is unsuitable for crop growth, and tame pasture would be an appropriate end use. This end use is compatible with surrounding lands, which consist of either native prairie, tame pasture, or cultivated fields. In accordance with Section 6.661 of the Land Use Bylaw, the development authority shall review each development permit based on its merit and determine its compliance with the bylaw. The Section 640 sub 6 of the MGA would apply. Basically, the development shouldn't interfere with the amenities of the neighborhood or materially interfere with the use, enjoyment, or value of neighboring parcels of land, and the use needs to be listed in the land use bylaw for the A2 district. Relevant legislation, the A2 district requires a setback from the center line from municipal roadway of 40 meters, 131.2 feet. The proposed gravel, the exposed area, scale, site trailer, and soil stockpiles must not be located any closer than 40 meters, 131.2 feet from the center line of Range Road 53. Based on the submitted site plan and activities plan, the east boundary of the excavation area and site trailer would appear to be about 30 meters, 98 feet from the center line of Range Road 53. This would result in a variance of about 10 meters, 32.8 feet. The activity plan also shows topsoil piles abutting Range Road 53, which would result in a significant variance from the center line of Range Road 53. The topsoil piles, site trailer, and excavation boundary should be located to meet the 40-meter, 131.2 foot setback requirement. Having stockpiles or other development near the municipal roadway could cause snow drifting issues and potential visibility issues. The regulations listed in section 10.10.2 of the land use bylaw limit operations of aggregate pits within 300 meters of a multi-parcel subdivision. These regulations will not impact the proposal since the nearest boundary of a country residential subdivision is over 600 meters away, about 2,000 feet. Access to the gravel pit is proposed from Range Road 53. Conditions of approval will impose mitigating measures relating to noise and dust nuisances that may be generated from the pit operations. A road use agreement with Public Works Department will be required, and any road upgrades relating to the findings of the TIA will also be conditions of approval. The MGA indicates that an excavation or stockpile requires a development permit. Municipal Development Plan, Section 8, resource extraction and renewable energy of the Municipal Development Plan states that the county recognizes the important role that the resource extraction and renewable energy plays in promoting a strong and diversified economy. As the county continues to grow, it is committed to supporting appropriate and accountable resource extraction and renewable energy development while ensuring its compatibility among human settlements and environment. 8.1.4 policies of the NDP states the county shall require that applicants for the sand and resource extraction operations minimize adverse impacts development may have an existing residence, adjusting land uses and environment. 8.1.6 states the county will coordinate with provincial authorities in the sand and gravel resource extraction industry to reclaim all lands once the development is no longer operational, including those areas within the still operating developments, and to include conditions to minimize the adverse effects of extraction on adjacent properties. Community aggregate payment levy bylaw 2018/21 imposes the cap in respect of all sand and gravel businesses operating in the municipality and to raise revenue to be used towards the payment of infrastructure and other costs in the municipality. Cypress County Design Guidelines, Section 9.1 roadways of the county's design guidelines state the county may require the developer to enter into a road use agreement to ensure roads affected by the development are adequately maintained. In conjunction with the road use agreement, the developer may be required to provide security in the form of a performance bond to meet their obligations under the agreement. Referrals, utilities, no conflicts, no comments, roads engineering. The TIA, some changes are recommended. The center line crosses over Range Road 53 and Township Road 114 intersection. For vehicles leaving the pit, radius widening is recommended. The haul route only to Black and White Trail is 800 meters and not along, haul road only to Black and White Trail, 800 meters and not long, then not along Township Road 114 to Eagle Butte Road over the oil. Township Road 114 oil with 75% ban. If allowed, the RUA would need to address this. Condition of Range Road 53 gravel portion for hauling. Improvements may be required to support hauling. Emergency Services Coordinator, no concerns. Planning Supervisor basically commented that the setbacks for soil and other development need to be 40 meters away from the center line of Cypress County road allowances. And also a municipal services agreement will be required as a condition of approval to ensure that improvements such as the turning radiuses as recommended by the developer's consulting engineer are constructed in accordance with the design guidelines and construction standards of the county. And the specific terms of the road use agreement concerning haul routes, security, and any required dust suppression will be addressed through the Public Works Department and supported by the road protection bylaws recommended by council. So our recommended motion is to approve development permit 24/34, subject to conditions. So conditions 1 through 7 are fairly standard. Condition 8, reclamation of the site is to be completed 1 year of the expiration of the gravel pit in accordance with the code of practice. 9, the operator shall comply with all requirements of the Alberta environment, including a guide to the code of practice for pits and the Environmental Protection and Enhancement Act, the Water Act, and Environmental Protection Guidelines for pits. Number 10, the operator shall ensure compliance with the EPEA guidelines regarding dust and air quality and will implement the dust control measures as per the submitted activities plan to limit the adverse impacts on adjacent landowners and traveling public. Condition 11, all pit operations, stripping, stockpiles, site offices, and equipment must meet the minimum setback requirements of 40 meters, 131.2 feet from the center line of all road allowances. 12, the applicant is responsible for obtaining any necessary approvals from Alberta Transportation. Number 13, the operator shall implement dust and noise control measures as per the submitted environmental studies for development permit application to limit adverse impact to adjacent landowner. The operator shall pay the community aggregate payment levy cap as required by bylaw 2018/21. The operator is required to enter into a road use agreement with Cypress County and be in compliance with the terms of this agreement as it relates to the project to protect the county road infrastructure. As a requirement of the road use agreement, the operator will be required to provide an appropriate performance bond to ensure that the terms of the agreement are satisfied, including responsibility for all maintenance and repairs to county roads as a result of operating the gravel pit. Number 16, the developer is required to enter into a municipal service agreement with Cypress County, pay required security, and be in compliance with the terms of agreement for the required improvements identified by the submitted TIA, Traffic Impact Assessment. And condition number 17, the application will be subject to annual review. As part of the process, the operator is required to provide Cypress County a verification of current remediation, extraction, processing, and stock piling areas. The MPC has an alternate motion. It can provide non-support to development permit application 2434 as the proposal is not aligned with the purpose of the A2 district and the setbacks proposed setbacks are not adequate. I do have some photos of the site. We're looking north, there's Range Road 53 and the proposed gravel pit locations on the left. Looking south, the gravel pit's on the right. Range Road 53 is in the middle there. Southwest, proposed gravel pit location is shown. West, gravel pit location is shown. Northwest, gravel pit again. East, that's across Range Road 53. It's the adjacent property. And Mr. Chairman, that concludes my presentation. Thank you.
Thanks, Aaron.
Throat is dying.
I missed part. Can you do that again? Kidding.
Of course.
Okay. That was a tough one. Thanks for doing that. All right. Mr. Bullen or any of your representatives, would you like to speak to the application at this time?
Well, thanks, Aaron. That was fantastic. You should be getting paid by the word. I don't know why they make you read out still. Well, do you want to go through each condition or just the ones that we want to talk about? Okay,
Which ones do you want to talk about? That's what the ones we care about.
Same as usual, 14 and 15. Our position hasn't changed, and we're going to ensure that we have the opportunity to make it known every time. So for those that need the history lesson, 14 and 15 in our position is that we're basically paying twice with a levy and a road use. Mike has several examples of other municipalities that don't do this, and that fee is included in the levy. Cypress County continues to request the road use and attaches it to the DPs, but we'll continue to have a discussion around it every time.
That's it?
Yeah, is there a position that, can we talk about it or no?
Sure. Go ahead.
Do you
Floor is
agree with my
yours.
position?
What's that?
Do you agree that it's a double up?
I'll make a motion.
I agree, you have a point. Perfect. Dan's jumping to make a motion here, so I don't know if that's good or bad for you right now. I have a quick question. Okay, so it said in your report that letters were sent out to the neighbors. and then no replies.
To be clear, we never received any. Did the office receive any?
Okay. Hours of operation, did I miss it?
The hours of operation are not impacted because there's no country residential subdivision within 300 meters.
I'm a little concerned about the neighbors to the northeast there, with the prevailing winds we have here. You didn't get any feedback from the Comrings about that?
I mean, you've been operating there, Mike, for years, so.
Yeah, I haven't heard anything. I haven't heard anything from it. I mean, I know that land is currently for sale, so I'm not sure how that impacts or if he's going to be there for long or what the future plan is for that, but I know it's been for sale and currently is, so I'm not sure on the position there.
And he didn't present to you any indication that he was had any concerns?
No, I haven't heard anything from it.
I mean, that's the only, like, you know, there's closer ones probably to the west there, but given the prevailing winds, that's the only one that comes to mind right away from my perspective.
Yeah, and I think due to the distance and the fact that I think their homestead is quite a bit lower ground, I don't know if it would affect them too much. Once again, in my past experience, if it is dusty, I mean, that's a courtesy and a common sense you would shut down, absolutely, because I wouldn't want that with my house.
Yeah, okay.
It's got annual review, so if something comes up, we can put in hours.
Yeah. We've done other hours, have we done other hours on other pits in that area? I'm sure we have.
To be clear, that we've addressed that in the crushing part of it. That's on my list. Are we done with 14 and 15, or?
Right.
Lloyd, you want to take one out? No? Leave them both in? Take 15 out?
Do you want to postpone it and consider it further?
No, I want to talk about 14 and 15. I want to have a communication.
Mike, tell us about your other areas that you've worked in and that the differences there. You know, it's worth hearing for sure. I mean, it's.
Yeah, so I mean, a lot of these levees were put in place in some of the bigger centers, your Edmontons, your Calgary areas, and basically there's so many trucks coming in and out that this levee is used to basically keep infrastructure up, fix roads, maintain roads. County use agreements are more based, in my experience, through projects when you have a large group of trucks that are going to haul to a specific area that's out of this realm. Being that this is a pit and that levee's charged, you're basically, it's known that it's going to have truck traffic, and that's what that levee is going to in these other counties and other places. Specific projects where you have that, yeah, it's not used to the traffic, so there would be a road bond put up. But on this, that's kind of what the levee's for. It's to maintain the road or damage from the trucks, knowing that it's a gravel pit and it will have trucks coming in and out. And that's what it's supposed to be paid into.
Yeah, so I mean, all seriousness, we just look at it like they're separate and they're used for different reasons. And like what Mike's trying to summarize is levies are for gravel pits, and the fees associated with that is ultimately with the traffic that comes along with the gravel pit. And then road uses are for specific projects as they come and go. And so the county should utilize those two options specific to the development. And we just feel like this one shouldn't have both. It should pick one or the other. It's just kind of what our position is.
Dan, do you want to explain the cap levy?
Well, just to touch on that just a little bit more, if from this gravel pit, say it was going to go to a renewable resource like a windmill system or something like that, you would request a road use agreement from them coming right from this pit to that area. So you'd basically be doubling up at that point in time on the exact same thing I'm paying for.
Well, cap levy is different. It isn't used for roads. It's used for parks and recreation around the province for the aggregates that are coming out of the ground. The road use agreement is used to repair the roads if it's done or if a bond's put in place. Two completely different things. That's why they're in place, and that's what they're being used for.
So the cap levy does not go to Cypress County, it goes province-wide, it's provincial?
No, it goes to Cypress County for recreation or whatever council decides is used for, but it is not used for roads. It's used for.
It can be used for roads though, Dan.
It could be.
And what we're saying is that other municipalities do use it for the roads, and they include that in the levy. That's just our position. We're not judging or commenting what Cypress County does with the revenue that they collect from the levy. We're not by any means saying that. We're saying that a levy is put in place to ensure that all of those things are taken account for. What they do with the revenue, that's their decision. That's just our position. We're not arguing
So
it.
the cap levy is province-wide, is it? Like, but within our bylaw?
It's within our bylaw, but the province put it in years ago for this use of going for recreation because of people using the roads and hammering them out. Well, it wasn't for hammering out the roads, it was for dust happening and everything being used for people in the area. So it became a recreational thing to put back into the communities, which is completely different from the road use levy that they're talking about.
But it does nothing to specifically, those people specifically affected by the dust, though, does it? So one neighbor puts up with dust and the rest get a park?
Yeah.
That doesn't make any sense to me.
Well, that's what the road use agreements put in, for the dust and that control.
So the road use agreement would say what in something like this? Like, what would it state? Like dust control, dust mitigation?
Dust control, or
So he has to-
wreckage of roads, or whatever they have to follow.
To be clear, the dust mitigation and the noise suppression are covered under the environmental aspect, as identified, I think, in clause, I can't remember the number, but the levy for the road, the levy plus the road use weight goes towards the cost to keep up the roads. And I think you kind of almost alluded to it there, that one would look at it like Mike's paying the county, and then the county's directing that money back to a park in Dunmore or to Seven Persons or Irvin. I mean, again, we're not by any means here today to judge where that revenue goes. We just feel like looking at it from Boland Construction's operations that we're paying for that twice. And the example that's most prevalent is when you have a wind farm 20 miles away that the gravel's going to, they're paying that road use again. So Mike's position and our position is that the pit, Boland Construction, should only be on the hook for the levy, not the road use that goes to the specific project. The developer of the project will then have to incur that cost for the road use. That's just our position.
So if he's selling the gravel to City of Medicine Hat, or City of Medicine Hat paying the road use agreement for that?
They're exempt. So the kicker is in the county, if your project is in the county and it needs a DP, say a wind farm, then they will have to pay a road use. The county will charge road use to that developer. However, if the gravel's going to the City of Medicine Hat, they're exempt. They don't pay a road use. So it's a little weird in some cases, without a doubt. And again, on our position, not judging when road use is charged and not charged, we're just looking at the levy. And so the way we position it for a gravel company to develop gravel in the county of Cypress, we feel that a levy is all that should be applied. Then when the gravel leaves, goes to the City of Medicine Hat or goes to EDF's wind farm, the county can determine when and who gets charged road use.
Are there any gravel pits that don't have to pay that? That you're well aware of? Are you unfairly being singled out with this?
I don't think, since it's been brought in, I think every pit around the area has to that's operating.
Okay. So it's not putting you at a
No, it's
disadvantage?
everybody, and I think.
All right. Okay.
Typically, we'll make the same stance for every applicant we're with. I don't know if the county does it for themselves, but yeah.
So if we did eliminate one of these, it would put you at an advantage?
It might put everyone at the same level.
I don't know if it does an advantage because the levy is the same, but I don't know if other existing pits are paying a road use agreement. Just for example, behind Dunmore, I'm not sure if there's a road use agreement on that gravel road behind the scales. I'm not sure if you guys have one in play on that, but I mean, they would pay a levy, but I don't know if they pay to use that road.
Okay, that's a question to staff. Are there road use agreements on all
Mr.
pits?
Chairman, I gotta, like, he's right, road use agreement is for, like, wind farm, solar farm. There's a start and end date project. So wherever their haul route will be, that's what we calculate. So So that's how we calculate the amount they're gonna have to pay from point A to point B. And then when they're done their project, then they get returned their security. So for this instance, like it's,
Security, it's not,
so for this instance, like he was right again, what he said, like somebody else from the city comes in and get gravel, they can use the road, there's no, like they don't pay security, they just go to the pit and get the gravel and go out, right? So to tailor a road use agreement for their purpose, like anything is possible, but it would be like just one specific, like modified road use agreement.
so it's fine and good if you're selling to a project that has a road use agreement, but, you know, probably a large percentage of your product would go to people without road use agreements, correct?
Yes, that's correct, but they would pay that levy, of course, which ultimately comes back, so. And like I said, I'm not sure if anyone could answer, but behind the scales for the other gravel pits, do they have a road use agreement for exiting out of the pits, or is it just a levy?
No, Mr. Chairman, there's none. They just go in and like any pits around, unless it's for a specific project, that's the only way that like the projects will pay to the pit, and that's about it.
So it actually puts me at a disadvantage.
So you're saying the LMT pit back there, is that the one?
Yes, so LMT and AgCorp would both have that where they're using a road that goes, a gravel road that's, I don't know, approximately 2 miles, and that doesn't have a road use agreement, they just pay a levy, so it puts me at a disadvantage by having a road use agreement.
It's grandfathered. If they came in and applied for it today, it would be on there. It's just something that's grandfathered, that's all, because it's been there for so long.
But the road use agreement just basically is, it just costs you the interest on that bond you have to put up, right?
Plus whatever damage is caused by the road. So even though you grandfather in or not, at the end of the day, if they grandfather in, one of their users is the damage of the road, then they're going to be responsible for repairing it. Without a road use, no matter the date, there's no liability to their users being on the hook. So for instance, if we continue down this example, the current 2-mile road, if I go there with the gravel truck to get gravel and I wreck the road, there's no liability to me or one of the two pits because there's no road use in place. The county's fixing the road. If they grandfather one in, so be it. It doesn't matter. What that then allows is that the county has liability, that the user will then pay for that. So as long as the county does not have that in place, the county's on the hook for repairing that road. That's what Mike's trying to say. Mike's paying to have future repairs done if and when needed. Those other competitors down the road are not doing that.
Okay. Kayleen?
Through the chair, and definitely hearing the feedback from Jason, Mike, and from Laura. We've had this conversation before on previous gravel pit operations as well that have been brought forward. And the reminder would be that the road protection bylaw and the cap levy bylaw are bylaws that are approved by council. If they're to be changed or altered, that has to be a request through council. So when we attach them to a development permit, like conditions 14 and 15, those are intended to act more as an advisory condition so that they have it in front of them that says, yes, you need a road use agreement, you have to pay the cap levy. After today's decision, if it's approved as presented, the developer will then go to Public Works, they'll coordinate the terms of the road use agreement, and if Public Works reviews it and says, under the road protection bylaw, we don't need a road use, then we're good. But we have to allow Public Works that opportunity to review the roads, review their concentrated haul routes. In this case, they're going to be going up and down oiled roads. It's going to damage those roads, right? But the justification here and the reason is that it's bylaws that are approved by council. If there's concerns with those bylaws, they have to be brought to council to discuss, to see if council is willing to alter their.
I mean, we have some flexibility
Their
with bylaws as a planning commission, of course.
Not with council bylaws, though. You have flexibility with.
Setbacks within the bylaws, correct?
Yes, but not with the road protection bylaw and not with the cap levy.
For a point of clarification, Kaylin, do they have the ability to set the rates in this level?
No, that's within the bylaw itself.
Because my esteemed colleague made a point, we'd be willing to accept a road use for $1.
So here's the question, have you had to pay in your other pits, has this been a big cost to you? The road use agreements and?
On projects I've done, road use agreements, yes. I mean, you have to bond it, you have to put it up there, and if that money comes out of your bond, you can only bond so much, so it would affect you on bidding future projects because it does take an amount that is set aside that is basically allotted for. So you can't just bond and bond and bond and bond, there's limits.
Okay, my question is, have they used that, has the county used that bond for one of your projects in the past?
They have, but I've just fixed them myself. I've gone and just regraded the road, fixed up some touch-ups, stuff like that, yes.
Okay, so they've not actually pulled from the bond, they just told you they were going to, and then you went and fixed it?
That's right, they noticed some deficiencies and I just took it upon myself to fix them.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. I mean, I'd like to see them all have it, but I mean, it's, if that's the case.
And then if I was to have a road use on this and then a project using the gravel pit has a road use agreement, how do you pick who wrecked the road or who pays or whose bond gets pulled? If there's multiple road use agreements put into this.
That's a question for that's Public Works would make that decision at that time?
Mr. Chairman, that's a tricky, like it'd be hard to, like how do you go by, you get two bond or two security on the same road. It'd be hard to police. It's so.
Therein lies our concern.
Okay, I think we beat this one to death. Any more discussion?
Normal half an hour on
Any other discussion from Planning Commission? Motions? You move approval? Okay, Amanda moves approval.
Real quick, sorry, before you go one step further, sorry to interrupt. What about the crushing application? Sometimes in the past, we've identified what will be required by the developer in regards to obtaining a crushing permit. We just want to inform.
That's
from
separate.
the,
The permit application, the permit application would come in separate from this. Correct?
Mr. Chairman, that's usually what's done, so we can add a condition to require that.
Sorry, Mr. Chairman, we're trying not to have to be burdened, the staff with that.
Everybody else does it.
No, Aaron's right, we usually add it in.
Thanks for reminding us. Go ahead, Aaron.
Under section 12.10.6, hours of operation, the hours of operation for the pit excluding extraction, reclamation, and processing, crushing of materials shall be specified by the Development Authority. The Development Authority shall regard to, but is not bound by the following guidelines: A, extraction, reclamation, and processing, crushing activities within the 300 meters requirement may only occur between 8 a.m. and 5 p.m. Monday to Friday. And B, no operation Saturday and Sunday unless otherwise approved as a condition of the development permit. So that's the hours of operation.
I mean, okay, so that's going to be inserted?
Is that in there?
Not in there, I don't see it.
We would request that 8 to 5 Monday to Friday is inserted in part of the DP, and then if anything was requested outside of that, that we would then come to the county for a permit, a separate permit.
Yeah, because in the past, we've given separate permits so they can go 24 hours a day.
Yeah, their permit application for their crushing
Right.
dictates when they can do it. They're asking for a blanket 8 to 5 with a permit for anything exceptional, is that what you're saying? Have we done that before?
Yeah, we have.
We did that on the other pit.
Okay.
So that'd be 18.
Add that condition. Are you, Amanda, you okay with that motion as amended?
That's 8 to 5 and closed on Sundays or weekends?
Closed on Sundays.
Yeah, closed Sundays, yeah.
Closed Sunday.
And that's Sundays consistent with other?
That's what I'm,
Is that your last one is Sunday or Saturday and Sunday?
I think that I don't want to say for sure, but I think maybe in the past, the permit has been approved in weather situations. If they were,
We clarified the weekend.
but for now, we're fine with having, just like you read it, 8 to 5, Monday to Friday. Weekends exempt, and then we'll come back in if required for additional timing for, like you said, 24 hours.
I don't think Mike's like, okay, you're great with that?
Yeah, I'm okay with that, as long as, I mean, like I said, if I have a project that requires more, I can phone in, or I'm not sure how that works, and just,
It's a permit, yeah, just like you do with your other.
yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman, if we can, if Aaron and I can just have a quick 2 minutes, and we'll draft a condition and come back to the Planning Commission with it, so that everyone is sure and we're understanding and we're on the same page.
Please do.
I guess a new condition could be regular hours of operation Monday to Friday, 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. with no operation on weekends. And then the next new condition would be a separate development permit would be required for any crushing operations. And that would be a Class 1 application or Class 1 development permit application, which could be approved by staff rather than going to MPC.
Okay, that's consistent with other
It's consistent with other applications, but there was one that we did recently where MPC specifically requested that it come to MPC for approval.
You guys don't want to come back?
No, we like them. Aaron, have we not had it included in the hours of operation, the standard hours of operation of crushing?
Not crushing.
No, it's
No.
been separate.
Always? Okay.
I think so, yeah.
So, okay, so what you're suggesting is maintain that, but maybe just separate out the heavy hitters here, and Mike just deal with staff direct.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, crushing's the issue that the public, you know.
Yeah, I mean, in all due respect, the biggest problem we have with coming to the MPC is just the scheduling and the timing.
Yeah, yeah. Okay. All right, so Amanda, we've got number 18 on this. Is that your motion? 18 and 19? Okay. So Amanda moves approval of development application 2434 with the addition of conditions 18 and 19 as stated. All those in favor? Carried. Development application has been approved, subject to meeting the conditions which were presented today. The county will mail you a copy of your development permit. Since there's a 3-week appeal permit, that the public may appeal the issuance of this permit. Since this is a discretionary, now I'm all messed up. Yeah, you might as well read it to me. You heard it enough. Since this is a discretionary use, there's now a 3-week appeal period that the public may appeal the issuance of this permit. Permit will be advertised in the Cypress Courier newspaper for a duration of 3 consecutive weeks. If no appeal is filed within that time, the development will be determined valid. If you have any further questions, you can contact the development officers after today's meeting. Thank you. Next on the agenda is the planner's report. Lloyd moves we skip the planner's report. I don't know if we can do that. Lloyd's hungry.
Instead of moving to skip it.
All right. Okay, Michelle moves the planner's report as presented. All those in favor? Carried.
I actually looked and I didn't have it.
Okay. Next meeting, September 10th. Wow, September already. Anyways. All right. I adjourn the meeting.